It was the first time I ever been cut from a team before in my whole life. There's two different paths. You can kind of sulk and mope around and be like, no, it's terrible. I'm just gonna, give up, or I'm just gonna go to this place and I'm not really gonna care, and I'm just gonna try to do everything I can for myself to try to get back to the NBA or do whatever it is. Or the other option is really embrace wherever you're going to go and really make the best of it and try to be the best that you possibly can be in that role.
Welcome to episode 150 of the AFT Construction Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Levitt. And in this episode, we have Jimmer Fredette. Jimmer Fredette is a professional basketball player. He was National College Player of the Year for BYU. He's played in the NBA and overseas professionally in China. And the reason we brought Jimmer on is because of the correlation between sports and business, entrepreneurship, that positive mentality, training, taking those extra steps that most people won't do to not only better your career, but better yourself. And the correlation between company culture and the culture on a team. And there's so much great insights and applications from Jimmer that we can all apply. So without further ado, let's get started. This past May, we had an amazing Contractor Coalition Summit. This was in Nashville with Nick Schiffer from Homebuilders and Morgan Molitor from Construction to Style out of Minnesota. And we are now up for our second round of the Contractor Coalition Summit that'll be in Huntington Beach from Sunday, November 6th through Wednesday, November 9th. Go to contractorcoalitionsummit.com, sign up, register. We have some amazing partners that'll be there sponsoring the event, amazing attendees that have already signed up. It's limited seating. We're only allowing 30 to attend. And again, this will be all things pricing, profitability, contracting, client expectations, scheduling, and of course, marketing and social media. Everything that we wish we knew in our business from the very beginning is all going to be wrapped up into just a couple days. So we'll see you there in Huntington Beach in November. So welcome to the AT Construction Podcast. And we're super fortunate today to have Jimmer Fredette with us. Welcome, Jimmer.
Yes, thanks for having me, Brad. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And I mean, you've had a big day, a big week. You're in the TBD tournament. You had an awesome showing yesterday. I know a lot of your highlights went viral yesterday, being back on the course. I'm sure that was nice.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, every time I seem to play on U.S. soil or do something good, I'm able to have some video clips being shown on social media and sometimes ESPN and all that stuff. So that's a lot of fun. To be able to have that on there. And it was just fun to play some competitive basketball again. I hadn't played for about a year. I didn't end up going back over to China last year. So it's nice to be able to play again.
So maybe, let's start there. I mean, just for those listening, Jimmer's a professional basketball player. You played in the NBA for a stint, College Player of the Year. You played in China. How did that change your career now? I mean, here you are, the U.S. You were playing in China for a while with COVID. Do you plan on going back? I mean, how has that changed, just career path?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not 100% sure yet what I'm going to be doing next year. I am a free agent, so I can kind of go and play wherever I want to. But no, I decided not to go over last year just with the COVID situation. My wife was pregnant. We just had a baby about 2 months ago. And, if I went over there, I would be over there for, 7 months without seeing my family or my kids. And that's what I did the year prior. And I was like, I just can't do that again, honestly, with the two little ones and then one on the way, and just making sure everything was good. So I decided to stay home. And now this year, like I said, be a free agent. So we'll see. In the China situation, I've had a great experience over there. I loved my time in Shanghai. They were so great to me and my family. We'll just kind of see what happens as far as the situation with COVID and all that stuff.
So living abroad, I mean, what's that like? I've lived abroad shortly. I lived in Argentina for a couple of years, and China though it seems foreign to most of us, having not been there. And how was that experience? I know it was really tough on you, as you mentioned, just being away from the family, but culture wise, fitting in, language barriers. I mean, how was the adaptation for you living there?
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. I mean, it's a completely different country than what I'm used to, growing up in America and then going over to a country like China. It's just a different type of culture, different type of mindset, different type of thinking. But was a great experience for me to be able to get to know the people over there, to get to know the culture, how they live, the food they eat, the language and kind of the different personalities and customs, and they have a lot of festivals and all these different things. So it's really cool to be able to experience that, kind of immerse myself in a culture that I was not familiar with to begin with. I always try to take advantage of it and make sure that I'm going out and doing the best that I can to connect with my teammates on a cultural level, on a friendship level. Even though some of them don't speak the same language and they can't communicate as well, it's still they can still feel your energy and feel if you're trying to help them and to be kind and to do good things and to know who they are as people and about their families. So I tried to do that the best I could and had a great experience doing it. I think because of it, have a different perspective on life and the world because of it.
I was going to ask that, as you're speaking about that, and I'll relate to my experience living in Argentina, especially coming to the U.S., at a young age, learning Spanish, being immersed in the culture, as you mentioned, cuisine, people, how they communicate, family dynamics, it's different, right? Than the way I grew up. It's just different than here. But culturally,
Yep.
I mean, it had a big impact on me at a young age. I mean, you think perspective now for you, even though you had a lot of maturity, you've played competitive basketball all throughout your life, you've traveled. How has it changed now, especially being father, young family, living abroad, and then coming back to America, and as you mentioned, the whole perspective changes.
Yeah, 100%. It really does. And I can truly say I am, very blessed and fortunate to be able to live here in the US, with my family. I love being able to be here. And there's some amazing things about these other countries that I've played in and other places I've been in. There's some really amazing things that I wish we would do more here in the US and vice versa when you go and live in these other places. So there's great things about both places. But I truly do love being back, in America. It just makes you appreciate where you grew up and who you, your family and, all the different things that you have, freedoms to be able to do. And so it's awesome to be able to come back to America. And I live in Denver, in the off season. I love Colorado and the weather and all the stuff that we were able to have there. But it definitely gives you a different perspective. And like I said, it's one place is it's just different. Not one place is necessarily better than the other. It's just a place that's you're kind of familiar with and used to when you get back onto U.S. soil.
So it's interesting. You mentioned when you were playing there and trying to how important it was, to get along with your teammates and be part of the culture there. Did you have any foreign teammates as well, or any English speaking, or were they all Chinese? And the reason I ask that is, sports has so much connection with business, right? I run a business, and a big thing I speak about a lot of guests is company culture, and it's really hard to create a company with great
Yeah.
company culture, right? And from the bottom down to the top, but the better culture you have as a company, the more successful you be. And it's no different than sports. I'm sure you've seen that through the different teams you played with throughout your career. That tight
Yep.
knit community you have as a team can fluctuate year to year, but the teams that are most successful have a great company culture. At least maybe don't get along perfectly outside the court, but when they're on the court, right, they have that chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's definitely it's an interesting process, to be able to create that culture when you're over in China playing. Now, there was only one other American that played with me at per time. They only allowed two. They call us imports. They only allowed two. Yeah, they only allowed two imports at a time. So most of the time, it was an American person. I did play with Luis Scola, who was from
Oh yeah.
Argentina. And
Hmm.
then I played with Gershon Yabusele, who was from France, who has kind of played in the NBA in some different places. And then one year I had Nick Minerath, who was from the U.S., and another time was Marcus Dentman, and he was from the U.S. as well. Great guys, but you definitely see it over in China because there is that language barrier that the guys that at least reach out and try to connect with the Chinese guys somehow, some way, whether they do speak English, whether they just sit next to them and even with their translator and try to get to know information with them on and off the court, you definitely see that the team camaraderie is much better. They play harder, because a lot of times in China, the US person gets to shoot most of the shots. We get to handle the ball most of the time. We're making all the decisions on the court, right? So if you're not trying to connect with them on a personal level or try to get to know them and show that you really care, then they won't play as hard for you because they know they're not going to shoot the shots. They know they're not going to do a lot of these things, and they'll almost ice you out. And then it's kind of a point of like that camaraderie just isn't good and it shows on the court. So it's really important for me to be able to do that right from the get go. Now, I'm not just doing it just because of basketball. I'm doing it because I'm genuinely trying to be a good person and trying to, get to know who they are. And I think that's just what my parents have instilled in me to be kind, to be a good person, do good things, get to know people and embrace yourself and the culture. And so because of that, I think we had good camaraderie, and that's what allowed me to play there for 4 years. They wanted me to keep coming back, and they still want me to come back. So it's good.
It's pretty rare. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, when you speak about just the importance to immerse yourself in the culture and the food and communicating with them, again, going to Argentina, one of my mentors, he said, Brad, when you go, make sure that you're not just like going to American restaurants, like McDonald's or like Burger
100%.
King that's down there, right? Like eat the
Yeah.
natural cuisine, get to know the locals, right? And it's really important. And I apply it now when we have our team meetings with my team, running a construction company, we'll have all different subcontractors and trades, right? Building these homes. So, from
Yep.
framers to plumbers. And I always speak to them. It's super important that you know everyone's name that's on the job site, right? Because you're gonna
Yeah.
garner a lot more respect from those that are working with you if you know their names, if you actually ask something about them, maybe bring them a drink, maybe bring them on, it's hot in Phoenix right now. Like bring
Yeah.
a cooler of drinks, right? And it's these relationships of trust, right, that you're building with these people. So speak about you know, being there in China, and you mentioned this, that why is it that, the American born player, or maybe Argentina, as you mentioned, the foreign player, why is it that the general on the court? Is it more a talent level that's there? Or is, basketball is becoming more relevant in China, or prevalent, I should say? Why is that you're kind of dictating how things go there on the court?
Yeah, it's a talent level as well as just the expectation. They're paying the American players or the imports more than the Chinese players on a, normal average, right? So when you get paid more normally, they're going to expect you to produce more, right? And that's what they expect you to do. Like if you're not producing at a level that they want you to produce, they'll get you out of there real quick. Like they don't have any, they'll bring in another guy, and then if you're not producing, they'll bring in another guy, and they have the money to be able to do it. So they're just kind of like, hey, if you're over here, you're an import, we expect you to lead the team, but we expect you to not just lead the team on the court, but also off the court. We want you to show them how to be professionals. We want you to show them how to be, how to work out, how to train, how to do all of these things, on and off the court. And I took that seriously. When I got over there, I took that seriously. I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be someone who was professional, and it was always great after practice. Guys would come to work out with me, shoot with me, ask me questions. They'd come up to me and ask for things. How do I do this move? How do I do this? Whatever it was off the court. What do I eat? Those different types of things that I feel like were really important for a lot of these guys' progression. So I was able to see a lot of these kids from for 4 years continue to progress and get better every year. And that was very, very satisfying. So I think that was the biggest thing, is that level of expectation of an import when they go over there, because they're paying you more. They're saying, hey, we want you to really be the leader of this team and help us win games.
So how does that opportunity present itself? I mean, I know that, as you become a professional, a lot of guys will go to Europe, China. Is that your agent that's working with you saying, hey, Jimmy, we have a great opportunity? I mean, speak about, how that door opened. And then I'm sure there were
Yeah.
some conversations your wife had that, hey, I'm going to go live remote for 7 months in another country, which is not an easy conversation.
Yeah, so it was interesting. So my last year in the NBA, I was with the San Antonio Spurs, right? I had one shot there. In training camp, they were looking at a couple different guys, myself included, to make a roster spot. And the last preseason game, I got called in the office by Coach Popovich, and he said, we're gonna have to let you go. And it was the first time I ever been cut from a team before in my whole life. There's two different paths. You can kind of sulk and mope around and be like, that's terrible. I'm just gonna, give up, or I'm just gonna go to this place and I'm not really gonna care, and I'm just gonna try to do everything I can for myself to try to get back to the NBA or do whatever it is. Or the other option is really embrace wherever you're gonna go and really make the best of it and try to be the best that you possibly can be in that role. And I tried to take the second route. Now I didn't know exactly where I was going to go at that point, but I knew wherever I was going to go, I was going to try to be the best that I could be. So I had a lot of offers from Europe, Australia, all over Asia, that type of thing. And my agent is the one that's fielding all of these calls, right? And he got a call from Yao Ming, and Yao Ming, obviously one of the best professional basketball players ever from China, the best from China ever, Hall of Famer, 7'7", huge human being. He's the owner of the Shanghai Sharks at the time, and he saw me play in Houston. We used to play against them, but for preseason games, and he saw me play all over the place. And he said, "I want him to come be a part of our team." So he talked to my agent, and the coach there was an American guy. His name is Brian Gorgian. he talked to me and kind of gave me, a little bit of the 411 of what was going on over there and
Right.
everything. He said he wants me to come over and play. And, at that point, the money was really good. And, Yao Ming, stable organization. And I was going to Shanghai, which is, in my opinion, the best city in China for a Westerner to live. And so it was the right situation. So I remember thinking about it, and I was sleeping one morning, and at 3 a.m. it just kind of woke up, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, like I need to go to China. And so I woke up early at like 5 a.m., hit my wife and was like, wait, like I need to go to China. And she's like, all right, fine, whatever. Just let me go back to sleep. So she goes back to sleep and wakes up and is like, all right, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, I think this is the right thing to do. And she was all on board with it. I mean, Whitney's been unbelievably supportive for me throughout the whole process, wherever it is that I've been. She knows that there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of unknowns when you're a professional athlete. But she's been incredible through the whole thing, supportive no matter what. And we've been able to be blessed with a great life at this point. So that's kind of how it went down. Was able to go to Shanghai and try to take advantage of it.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned that, there's that pivot point. Everyone has that tipping point in their life where, it's not that things were easy for you. I'm sure they never were growing up in New York and, the career path you took. I mean, people can look from afar, at your game and be like how talented Jimmer is and not realizing the work that goes into it, right? But there, as you mentioned, there's this pivot point. And I had this in my career in 2011 when everything fell apart. I did a YouTube video
Yeah.
about this, that I had a plan, just like you, right? I had a direction. I was going this way. And my whole world like fell apart, and I had to reevaluate things, and started AFT. And I won't get into the mix of it, but as you mentioned, like, where does this upbringing come from? This mentality, because I think this is really important to business entrepreneurship. Which you are an entrepreneur, Jimmer, and that's the reality
Yeah.
of it. And as an athlete, where it is easy to say, okay, well, what's next? You had planned your whole life to get to this point, and then you're at this turning point. So is this upbringing?
Yeah.
Is this parents? Is this influences you have throughout your life? I mean, mentorship that you've had.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of it comes from my parents. My father, especially, he was a really hardworking guy. We didn't grow up with a ton. Grew up in a small place in a blue collar town in upstate New York, where no one really knew where it was or anything like that. But the people were tough, hardworking people, and were extremely nice, good people. But my dad, he was an entrepreneur himself. I mean, he had every single job you could possibly think of, from door to door sales to working in a paper mill to working at mines and to working, door or whatever it is. He's done it all. And I saw him work really, really hard to get to the point where he was. And to finally, he was able to go and take the Series 7 test and become a financial planner without any financial schooling or anything like that. He was just a hard worker, right? It was like, I'm just going to go do it. I'm just going to get things done. And, that type of mentality, I think, was within our family. My brother and my sister, who are older than me, both were good, hardworking people, good athletes. My sister was really good at school and, took that route. My brother was a good athlete and decided to take that route. And, for me, I just saw that and was the younger one, and how the younger one is, they're always getting beat up on and they're always getting, told they can't do something and, all of these things that are going to being the youngest child. And I just had a mentality of like, I don't care. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care, how big you are or anything like that. I'm going to go do it. And so I just had that. I always had that type of mentality. My mom was huge into positivity, just thinking the positive way. And I think that's a huge part of success is to be able to, if something happens and it's not what you think, you'd have to brush it off and you have to be like, all right, I got to use that as a motivation to get to the next step, whatever that next step may be. And, having a positive mindset and thinking the right way, I think is a huge part in being able to do that.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned that the positivity is what breeds success. And, the more time I spent interviewing guests on this podcast that have been successful, the more I spent around, my clients who have been successful, the common theme is that positivity, as you mentioned, because look, life's hard, relationships are hard, business is hard. I mean, sports are hard. Like anything you're doing is really difficult. And if you don't have, if you have maybe a negative or, Debbie Downer mindset, it's really hard to be on top of your game and to always look to how can I better myself? How can I perform? How can I, change my surrounding? How can I change my company culture? How can I change, maybe my process of being an athlete. And I think one of the biggest compliments for you, Jimmers, I know, especially when you're playing, well, you're playing now, but the constant theme is that like how competitive you are. They're like, Jimmer's so competitive. I mean, this is a guy that'll cut your throat out, but yet he does it in a likable way, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
get through someone's face and you're smiling at him. So, I mean, the competitiveness, you alluded to this a little bit. I mean, where does that drive come from? Because to get to your level, I mean, you have to have that drive.
Yeah, I honestly think it came from internally. I mean, obviously my family's competitive. My brother, my dad, my mom, they're all competitive. I have aunts and uncles that are competitive, all that stuff. But honestly, I think it just came within. I just got blessed with an opportunity to play basketball, and I knew that I had a talent for it right from when I was young. I could just shoot the ball, and I was always pretty good. But I had a belief, like I didn't have a plan B growing up. It was plan A. It was NBA. That was all I thought about. Right. That's like what I was going to do. And it was probably naive of me at that point, growing up from a small town, being a small white kid who was pretty chubby, growing up, like was bigger. And, people were like, you think you're going to be in the NBA? But I truly believed it. And, so because of that, I had an internal drive of like, I need to practice every day. My brother, my dad, no one ever came to me and was like, "Hey, we need to go practice today." It was always me being like, "Hey, I'm going to practice today. Will you come with me?" Or if you're not, I'm just going to go by myself. You know what I mean? Like I was always going to get that work in because I had a plan, I had a goal, and I was going to reach it. And that's the way I thought, right? And I think anybody who's successful thinks that way. If you go into a situation and you don't think that you can accomplish it, you're not going to be able to. Like it's just the way it works. You have to have that belief, and that's why all successful people think they're the best or think they're the best player on the court at any time. Doesn't matter who's on the court, but it's not a cockiness, it's just a confidence, right? You can be confident and not cocky. You don't have to outwardly show it. You don't have to showboat or do any of these things. You can just have a belief in yourself and then continue to understand that you can still be humble, you can still be a good person, you can still all these other things while trying to accomplish your goal and understanding who you are as a person and who you are as an athlete. So I've always had that type of mindset, and I think it's really important for kids that are trying to reach their goals to have that mindset.
It's interesting to say that, Jimmer. And maybe I was late to the game, but it's funny. I remember it's probably like 7 or 8 years ago. There's that book and there's the movie The Secret, right? And I'm thinking, okay, well, what's the secret to like all this secret things? And there's like a vision board. And reality is, as you mentioned, I mean, the whole secret of people that are successful is they dream it. Their goals, they're aligned to it. Like you already said, I'm going to be an NBA player. I don't care what anyone says. Like I don't care about my size and stature. Like I'm going to continue to work and work and work. It's that 10,000 hours, right? That Malcolm Gladwell speaks about. And what's interesting is, I think about it business wise, and this is something I've spoken to some other business owners. When I started my company, it's like, okay, it took a lot of time, right, to get the projects we wanted. But I knew, like deep down, I said, this is what we're going to be doing. These are the homes that we want to be building. These are the clientele we want to be working with. And it was that constant, like, this is what we're going to do this. And every opportunity that came, okay, this is a step to the next,
Yes.
the next option, right? This is a step to the next, part of the ladder that I have to climb to get to where I want to be. And
Yep.
you think that from marketing and just mentality. And so from your side, Jim, I mean, this is rare. I mean, for me, again, I was competitive as a kid, but never at that level. It's not till I was older and really understood that, hey, a lot of us have this power inside of us, or a lot of us have this opportunity, but we have to like take the steps. We have to be disciplined. We have to be positive, right? All these things. And so for you started young. Did you play other sports growing up? Did that help fine tune this, or was it just basketball that you're like, you caught the vision and you're like, I'm ready?
Oh, I played other sports, especially at a small school. If I didn't play other sports, we wouldn't field a team. Basically, you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't have the players. All the players had to, play all the sports in order to have good competitive teams. And so I played football, I played soccer, I played baseball. I played football and baseball all the way growing up through high school. And then I played basketball as well. And I encourage that for kids. The reason being is because you don't want to get burnt out on one thing. You know what I mean? If you're just doing one thing every single day at a certain age for the rest of your life, and you're not doing anything else, it's very, very easy to get burnt out. Now, there are few that won't, and those will be incredible success stories, and you'll see tennis players that are like that and golfers that are like that. But if you look at basketball players, football players, baseball players, most of them play other sports growing up because that athleticism translates from one sport to another, and there's different things that you get from one sport from another sport that you may not get from basketball. Those types of things. So I encourage it, but also at the same time, I had a goal to play basketball, and that's what I wanted to do. Even though I liked football, I liked baseball, so I always made time um, during the week to be able to still play basketball, even if it was football season or even if it was baseball season or whatever it was. Now, I may not play every single day during the season because, it's practice, it's school, it's games, it's tiring. But I always found a couple days a week for sure to keep my skills going. And then, once it was basketball season and then through summer, it was all grind time of just playing basketball and making sure that I was getting prepared for what I needed to do next. But it's definitely, you definitely, I think you should play other sports, give yourself a break from some of these other, from what your main sport, just mentally, physically, just to kind of regroup. And I promise you, if you take a day off or 2 days off, you're not going to lose all of your skills. You know what I mean? Like it's going to help you more mentally and physically to be able to, work harder the next time you get to the gym.
Well, it's interesting you say that. From my understanding, there's been a lot of research done as well that with injuries, right? A lot of the players that have played multiple sports, they're less prone to injury, right? Because it's different muscle memory, different muscles you're using, and as you mentioned, adaptation, competitiveness. Because even people that have done the same career the whole time, like I know Tiger Woods has been open about that. Hey, I've played golf my whole life, but they get burnt out, right? I mean, he's so dominant, he's changing his swing, and
Yeah.
it's almost like you need this other outlet, and so going back to growing up, and you mentioned that you spent a lot of time, still finding time for basketball. When did the green light come? Because you were kind of the forecast of like these deep 3-pointers, right? That now Steph Curry and you are known for, right? So,
Yeah.
pulling up from anywhere on the court, that you have to have extreme confidence, and not only for yourself, but also from your teammates, from your coach that are going to be okay with, this shot selection, if you will, that you're still going to hit them every time. So speak about just kind of being at the forefront of this whole movement that has changed basketball.
Yeah, no, it started when I was super young. The reason being, like I said, my brother was 7 years older than me. My sister's 9 years older than me. So I was quite a bit younger, but I was always hanging out with them, hanging out with my brother and his friends, and they'd come over to our backyard and play basketball. We had a basketball hoop out there. And, obviously being so much younger that if I dribbled into the paint at that point, I was getting blocked every single time, right? I was getting blocked. They're throwing me into the fence. They're doing all this stuff. So my brother made a rule actually. So that they said if I shoot behind a certain part of the backyard, these little steps that we had, if I shoot behind there, they couldn't block my shot. And it was a pretty deep shot, right? So I was like, okay. So I started shooting from back there from a really young age and started to make the shots, and they couldn't block them. And then everyone wanted me on their team after that, right? Because I was like an asset. Like all of a sudden, I was making these threes from long ranges and all this stuff. So it started there, and then we played on our third grade team, and my dad would go up to the coaches, then the other third grade teams, and be like, "Hey, do you guys count 3-pointers?" And they're like, "3-pointers? What do you mean? We're trying to get our kids to dribble the ball, and because I could shoot them at that point, I could make them and all of that stuff." And then it just kind of kept snowballing, and I was a stronger kid when I was younger, so I could shoot from long distances, and I just kept having that. And then as I got into middle school and high school, my coaches knew that I could shoot, so I started shooting from deep ranges at that point, and they were letting me shoot them, and they had no issues with it because I was making it, and they were like, my teammates expected it. They've been seeing me doing it since I was third grade. So they're just like, "Hey, keep shooting those threes. This is what we expect from you. And this is kind of what you do." And, all that stuff. And obviously developed all parts of my game as I continued to do that. But people see the three, the long range three, and that's what they think of when they think of me. So it developed at a young age. And then once I got to BYU, Coach Rose wasn't super happy with it at first, you know, but they learned pretty quickly. I was making them, but also was creating space for our team, and we were winning games and all of that stuff. And he's like, "All right, just shoot good shots. If they're long, that's fine, but just don't be, too crazy about it." And so my teammates were great with it too. So it ended up working out really well.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows. When it comes to building homes at AFT, almost every project has Pella Windows. And they've been just an incredible partner of ours. And locally, Sammy and Adam, they are not only amazing business partners behind us, but they are super close friends. And I speak on the podcast all the time about the importance of relationships, right? Relationships with our customers, with our vendors, with our suppliers, because at the end of the day, I'm only as good as those that help our brand and assist us in our projects to take it from the ground up all the way to completion. And if we didn't have partners such as Pella, there's no way we'd be who we are today. Over the years, we've built this amazing relationship. When we call them or email them, they respond. They're quick. Their company culture, their integrity, their honesty, they are always there to do what's right for us and the customer. They can do anything from small replacement projects to large custom homes and even multi-million-dollar commercial projects. And also, when you think about their product line, they can do ultra contemporary, historical preservation, and large traditional projects. So for anyone, any scale, any size, they're the ones to call. They're here local. They have an amazing Instagram. Make sure and give them a follow to see what they're doing. So if you need windows and doors, give Sammy and Adam a call. We stand behind Pella. We love what they do, their culture, their brand, and especially their quality. And if you want to learn more about Pella Windows, check our show notes. We'll have everything tagged there so you can give them a follow and have their contact information to reach out. For those of you that have listened to the podcast, you know how big of a fan we are of Buildertrend and that we have used this software for the last 4 years. And many of the guests that we've brought on the podcast are also Buildertrend users. And in this day and age, with as busy as all of us are in construction, as complicated as it is with escalation pricing, lead times, tracking, organization, all of us need a good project management software to help simplify and organize our business. And there are a couple features that we love a ton about Buildertrend. And one is the owner portal. The other is the daily logs. And these are features that we use daily, right? Half of my clients are out of state. And as an owner, it is so imperative how we communicate with our clients, with our team, with our customers. And through Buildertrend, this allows us that quick connection. They can check at any time. We can communicate with them. We're up to date. This has actually helped us win jobs, win projects because of that organization, especially at pre-construction. And Buildertrend also offers a ton of service on the back end, training and understanding and workshops, to help us use their software effectively. They also have the podcast, The Building Code. To learn more, head to buildertrend.com/AFT to get a 60-day money-back guarantee on your Buildertrend account. That's 60 days to make sure you love this product with no pressure, and I know you will. So any defining moments, I think back to your college career, a lot of us that have watched that have followed along. I know you got to play against Kawhi Leonard. You had some big games against San Diego State, big game down here playing U of A, which is just south of us here. And, even in the tournament playing Florida, hitting some deep threes, right, in March Madness. The level, of confidence from, it's one thing to play growing up, play against your older siblings, you're having to, to fine tune that skill to be competitive. But at a D1 level, when you're playing at this level against talented athletes, arena feel, what's that sensation, hitting those shots and just, just maybe not the nerves. Did you ever get nervous when you played before games?
Oh yeah, no, I was nervous before every game. I still am, and I think that's good. It's a good nerves. It means that you care. Honestly, like when you're worried about something or you're kind of a little bit nervous, it's more of a good nervous. You know what I mean? Like you're prepared, but you're also like, I wanna be successful. I want to do well. So because of that, you feel a little bit nervous, which is great. I think that that's important to know that you still care about it and you're going to put in your best effort. But yeah, it's definitely different, getting out into an arena that's filled with 15 to 20,000 people in it, playing in front of them. And if you're playing away, most of them yelling at you and calling you different things and all that stuff, which is super fun. That's the best part of it. I used to just sit right next to the student section before games and just let them yell at me as much as they possibly could while I was warming up so I could get as hype as I could to be like, all right, we want to shut you guys up at some point and I don't want to hear any of it. Like that's the fun of college basketball. And so I love that experience. Yeah, it's definitely different, but I remember when we did play U of A at their place. That's one of my favorite games of all time. And that was when I really truly was like, okay, I've kind of arrived. Like people are actually starting to know who I am. Like I had that game. They were ranked really high. That's a really prestigious place to play. Many people don't go in and win that game. We weren't supposed to win that game. And I remember after that game, their fans gave us a standing ovation coming off of the court. because we played so well and they just respected it. They're good basketball fans. And at that point, we were on the map and I was on the map and people were taking notice. And then after that, just kind of kept snowballing.
Well, it's interesting because if I recall, I think you dropped over 50 at a blue chip school, right? That, playing
Close. It
you.
was 40. Yeah, it was 49 points at
Yeah,
at U of A. Yeah, and that was my junior year. That was before my senior year. So it was that's when people started to really take notice.
that's amazing. So, going back to the, just hearing the crowd and getting amped up. I mean, what's the worst thing someone's called you or, something that just made you laugh when they, made a comment at that you just had to laugh?
Yeah, a lot of times I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so a lot of times they attack that, right? Being at BYU, they're attacking us, saying different things about that. I remember always at San Diego State, one of the funniest things, like the first 10 people in the row had like their missionary shirts on with their bike helmets and everything. They were always just trying to like get into us, get under our skin. It's hard to like say like specifically one thing that someone says. I mean, they say so much and they're all saying it at the same time that it's honestly hard to hear like one specific person just saying something specifically to you. But they talk about your mom, they talk about your girlfriend. I mean, they used to talk about Whitney all the time my senior year. I remember, one of the teams, I think it was San Diego State, that did like the Facebook poke. I don't know if you remember that. That was a
Uh
while
huh.
ago, but
It was a while ago.
yeah, they all went and they were like, "All right, we're gonna poke Jimmer's girlfriend," right? And they had like she had like 500,000 pokes or something like that on on Facebook, and she had to like delete it and all that stuff for a while. It was crazy, but a lot of fun. Things that you will never forget. It's what college basketball is all about. It's what makes it fun. What makes you play. It's what makes you driven to go out and win. So I had a fun experience with all that.
So, Jimmer, where's that name come from?
So that's my mom. I guess she's a branding expert, to be honest with you. Like she's it must have been incredible with that because my name's actually James. So my name is James Fredette, James Taft Fredette, and but I've never been called James. Like ever since I came out, my mom's like, no, it's going to be Jimmer. She would go into school when I was a kindergarten and everything and tell all my teachers, don't call him James, call him Jimmer, and everything. So she was the one that coined that, and it's definitely stuck. And people, are only have to say one name when you hear me, so that's fun.
Yeah, it's a great name. It's definitely, good, especially for how your career's evolved, and to be, notarized. James probably wouldn't be as popular as Jimmer, right?
Exactly. Like I said, she was the branding expert from the beginning.
Well, branding's everything in a company. And what's interesting now when we speak about branding and marketing, and earlier in the conversation you spoke about this, Jimmer, being, there in China, you were, training, you're teaching, right? And now you've evolved that now where you're super active on social media, TikTok and Instagram, teaching young players, people that follow you, hey, here's, different techniques to basketball. So, how has this evolved now, especially with social media at your fingertips that you can now use this instructionally, as kids, you and I, in our generation, we didn't have access to YouTube or these videos to like have this shortcut. You had to figure this out yourself, Jimmer, but now you're taking the educational mindset, so how has that evolved, career or potentially where, do you think that'll take you in years to come?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I kind of just did it one day, just posted on social media. I'm like, I'm working out every single day anyway. So I was like, maybe I'll just, post a little video of me working out or doing a shooting form lesson or something like that. And then I got a lot of views for it and got a lot of likes for it. People were like, oh, I love that. Will you please do more? And I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll do some more, and just kept kind of evolving. And now I try to do it pretty regularly. And honestly, I mean, for me, I've I've been someone who's had to work out a lot, right? Like being my size and stature and everything, and not being the most athletic person, out there. I've had to really hone in my skill in order to play at the level that I've played at. So I've done it so many different workouts. Tried so many different skill things and little footwork techniques and different little shots and and all these things that I've worked on. And, I feel like it's a good opportunity for me to be able to pass on that knowledge to some of the younger kids that are looking to do the same thing, and I find it fun to be able to do that. And when kids ask me questions or talk to me about it, I think I always try to take time to do that, just because I think it's the right thing to do, and I think kids appreciate it and their parents appreciate it, and it's something that's fun for me to do anyway. So it just kind of, like I said, snowballed a little bit from, starting one video to more people liking it, and people are like, now people I think rely on it, and they're like, hey, I need some more videos so I can, so I can get out there and keep working on my skill and doing new things. So I try to put out some content, and I appreciate people following me and liking it.
So it's interesting. I mean, as an athlete yourself, Jimmer, I'm sure for you, you think, hey, I'm just me. Like, I'm just Jimmer. Like, this is, you kind of go through your life, pursuing your passion. But, you know, when did you start realizing, I don't want to say celebrity status, but where you actually had an effect where people are watching you, right? And you become an admiration, especially for young people that are watching you. And I know a lot of athletes that I've been around, a big thing is charity, right? Giving back and serving. And it's not all athletes, but most of them are this way. I mean, how has that played a role just in, your life, your well-being, and just the mantle that you have right now?
Yeah, my life changed big time my senior year at BYU. That's when my life really changed, where I went from people knowing me and recognizing me still, and kind of wanting some autographs and all that stuff, to like overnight making it so I couldn't even go out on the street, to be honest with you, without getting mobbed when I was in college. And at that point, obviously, I knew I had lots of fans. People were following me throughout the country, airports, like it was hard to get into games. It was definitely it was a crazy, unique experience, to be honest with you, and something I wasn't expecting. But at that point, I knew that I had a platform, and social media was just starting to come out at that point. Which seems crazy. It was only 11 years ago, but that's how new this stuff is. And I knew I had a platform, and I wanted to do good with it. That's always been something that we wanted to do as a family. So we did start a foundation. We started that family foundation. We've been doing that for the last 11 years, and it's been incredible. We've had such a great success with it, and we've actually just started a program called Choose Kindness program, with conjunction with the Cook Center for Humanity, who has been helping sponsor, and we're actually in over over 46 schools right now all across the country with our Choose Kindness programs in elementary schools, helping kids understand the importance of choosing kindness, and how to be nice to people, how to include people, how to do all of these things while they're young, try to get it in their heads, and try to get them thinking about positive things and everything. So that's been a really rewarding experience. At this point, we're continuing to grow. We should be in many more schools this next school year, which has been incredible to see. So I think it's been my most important thing to do, is be able to give back, right? Like, basketball is awesome and it's so fun, and people will remember the shots you made and all that stuff, but they'll also more remember if how you treated them, and if you were a good person, and if you gave them an autograph, or if you said hi to them, or if you did, smiled at them, or whatever it was. Those are the lasting things that people will really remember. So I think that that's been super important for me.
I love that. I mean, it's super mature, Jimmer, to understand your legacy, right? Is what you're speaking of. And I've spoken to other business owners that are very open about, sharing all their knowledge about business or things they've learned, similar to what you're doing with athletics, right? And especially, particularly basketball, is that, you're not afraid to give back because like you're confident in who you are and your capabilities and abilities and, your training and everything you've done to this point, that it doesn't matter if the competition sees this or learns about it. I mean, it's still you, right? Like you're still going to go out
Yeah.
and perform. And it's similar to business, that people can share all this stuff and really build the industry in some aspect. And, from a young age as well, when you think about the charity side, I mean, you played in the Mount McGregor Correctional Facility. I mean, did that play a role, like just in competitiveness? Did that, how did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been more intimidated than playing in the prison. That's for sure. I like when you play in the prison, then when you go and play against New Mexico or San Diego State or something like that, or UNLV, that doesn't compare even a little bit to what you would have already done. So yeah, that was a fun experience. I mean, my next door neighbor, their uncle ran the rec portion of two different prisons in our area. So they decided to let the guys that were on good behavior come in and play basketball. And they were asking us, because we knew we were a big basketball family, hey, do you guys want to come in and play? And my brother was like, of course. And Jimmer's coming with us. I was, technically underage. I had to get a permission slip signed, and my father had to come and everything to be able to go do that. And we went in and played at the prison, and it was definitely intimidating. You walk right through the yard, and you go to the gym that they had there, and bodyguards all over the facility, and then they had little stands actually there, so they let a lot of inmates come in and watch the game. And the inmates would come in and they'd start betting on the game, right? And they'd be pretty rowdy. And most of the time, they would actually they were betting that their inmate team would win most of the time, because they looked at us, so like, there's no way that these guys are going to win. And then we started playing, and then a lot of times they're like changing their bet. They're like, you know what? No, these guys are going to beat them. These guys are going to beat them. I'm changing it completely. So you'd see a shift, and then they start cheering for us. And yeah, we were able to have a relationship with some of the guys in there. And actually, once I went to BYU, they were able to watch some of the tournament games and some of the games that they played, because they knew I went to BYU, so they were able to actually watch some of the games in the prison, which was kind of fun and everything. So it was a unique experience, something not many people get a chance to do, but definitely helps you with your mentality. And when you get fouled or anything like that, you don't say anything. You just move on to the next play and just keep playing.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Prison fouls, I'm sure, are a little bit different. You can't be soft playing there.
No, you definitely can't be. You can't be soft, and also you don't want to say too much back. That's for sure.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the scouting report was probably missing. That was, they didn't have the over under, in preparation for that.
Yeah,
How old were you when you were playing at that level?
I was between 16 and 18. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. So,
Yep.
now why Denver? I mean, growing up in New York, having played there, you went to BYU, you've lived abroad. What made you settle there in Colorado?
Yeah, it's my wife. My wife is from Denver, and she her family lives close to there. We're about 15 minutes from her parents' place. Her brother lives there also with four kids, so they have good cousin. My kids have cousins there that they can hang out with, and I honestly I love Denver. It's my favorite place. In the U.S. I think I've been all over the places to live, and I just love the climate of it. And there's a lot going on, and we live in a really nice area. We're so fortunate. We actually are currently building a house, and we're almost done with the process now. Brad, we should have had you do it,
Oh, no.
but yeah, it's been
How's that supply chain for you? Is it taking a little longer than expected?
it's honestly been okay for us. We started about 2 years ago. We started like right before everything kind of happened, and we kind of hit a little bit right on time, honestly, for a lot of it. Now we're getting down to the end. It's gone a little bit slower at the end than we have wanted it to, but mostly because we're just trying to get people in to install stuff and everything. It's
Hmm.
more of the people trying to get in to actually work than actually having the supplies on hand, because we do have the stuff. So, but it's been a fun experience, so I know all about it. And but yeah, I love Denver. It's been amazing to have Whitney's family there. They're unbelievable people, especially when I've been gone, with help with the kids and to be there with Wit and everything. So that's been a great experience. But yeah, we won't leave. It's an amazing place.
Well, it's interesting. I'm sure, speaking about construction, which is, my day to day, it's interesting because, having started the process, I'm sure a couple of years ago was good for you because you missed some of those price hikes, and it's been, a very
Just
fluctuating
barely.
market. And
Yep.
yeah, it's been tough for us, and we've had to learn, you think about just having to pivot, right, and change, adapt, right. And it's something that we've had to spend a lot of time, just communication, set expectations. And,
Yeah.
pre-COVID, that you feel that it was funny because a friend of mine in St. Louis had posted, or they're in Kansas City, they had posted a funny video about they thought it was hard to build in 2019. Little did they know 2022, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's coming.
it's
Yep.
just, yeah, it's just changed. And it's, it all comes down to expectations. But going back to your house, without, telling everyone about your house, are there some unique things that you had designed or any special elements you're excited about to have, when you moved in or when you move in?
Yeah, no, we're excited. So we lived right down the street, right? And we moved about 100 yards up the street to this lot, and we wanted a lot with a bigger yard, and to be kind of have an opportunity to build what we wanted to build, right? So we'll have a pool back there, we'll have an in the ground tramp, and of course we'll have a little sport court in the backyard. with a little basketball and everything. So that's something that we didn't have at our other house. And obviously we could build the house exactly the way that we wanted to. And, honestly, when I was growing up, like I said, we didn't have a big house or anything like that. And I don't care about cars. I don't care about jewelry. I don't care about like literally anything on the planet, but I always wanted to have a big house. Like that was my one thing. And so I was like, all right, let's go out and let's build our house that we want to build. We've been fortunate enough to be able to be in the situation, and honestly, the market has been perfect for us to sell our home, our other home, and be able to roll most of that into this home that we're building, and kind of just hit out at the right time. And we decided to do it, and we're super excited about it. I mean, we'll be in and hopefully within the next 6 weeks, and
Oh, that's
be living
exciting.
our life. Yeah, we'll be living our life with our three little ones, and this will be the house that they grow up in. So
Yeah, that's super exciting. I'm sure, especially being, not a young father, but having young children, for you and it's really important, that the kids have a place where they can bring their friends and grow up. And I'm sure there's a lot of that reason too behind having a big house because you want your kids to be there,
yes.
right? To have the influence on that.
Oh my goodness, yes. I want them at our house so that their friends want to come over and that we can see them, more than one time a week, probably, as they get older. They don't want to go anywhere else. They want the kids to come to our house. That's what I definitely want, so we can experience all those experiences with the kids and with their friends and everything. So definitely a big selling point for that.
So being a client now on the flip side, right now, speaking about construction from your side, having gone through this process of building, with your builder, are there, any recommendations do you have for builders listening, architects, designers through communication, systems or pain points maybe that you've had? It sounds like it's been a pretty good process, which is amazing, but just from the client perspective, things that we should be focusing in on, just to understand from our side.
100%. The biggest thing for us is communication. Like I would say the communication between the three different points that I like to talk about. It's us, the builder, and then also the trade, whatever that may be, or if you have a designer, right? That the communication between the three, I feel like there's been times where we're communicating with the builder, but they're not communicating with the trade, or vice versa, and then things get lost or things don't happen the way that they should, and then we have to change it, and that type of thing. So being able to have that communication. So I think the biggest thing is like making sure that the builders are writing stuff down always so that they know what we're saying, because we go through a walkthrough of the house and we say a lot of stuff, and if it's not written down, then maybe maybe one little detail is forgotten, but that detail is important to us. You know what I mean? So I think that's something. But then also the communication between the people that are going to be your designers of your house. If you're designing your house, that's great. But if you have a designer that's working with you, to be able to have them there so that they know, what light fixtures going in, and what type of grout is being put in, and all of these little things that you don't think of but you forget about, but they have all that information. That communication needs to be good too.
I think that's tremendous insight. It's funny that you talked about writing it down. So early in my career, and this was, this is right out of construction. I did construction management at BYU, moved to Phoenix right after, right? And I was working on this
Right.
amazing hotel, the Mauna Lucia. It's in Paradise Valley, this amazing hotel.
Yeah.
And there was one of my fellow supers, and he never wrote anything down. And like he would always forget, the client would say things, the customer. And our director of operations at the time, the company I was working for, he fired him on the spot. He's like, look, if you're not going to write stuff down, like you will not
Right.
succeed in this industry. And unfortunately, he was turned, but it had a big impact on me because, we can all think about, I have a good memory, but documentation is so important, especially there's so much information like in a home, in the homes that
Yeah.
in any home, it doesn't matter the size, there's so much communication. As you mentioned, you're essentially probably sitting down, making selections 2 years ago that now are coming to fruition. And, if that's not
Right.
documented, it could be a big issue.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for the record, I mean, our builder he's been doing really well. Like he's had a good system. He's been, fairly organized. Obviously there's so much stuff that goes into it. So there's been some things that we have to continue to talk about and make sure that they happen. But he's done a really good job. But he does write stuff down, right? Like he has someone with him to write it down as we're going through the process, and understanding that. So I mean, that's definitely definitely a big thing. But we've had a really good experience, right? We've been fortunate. We've worked with really good people, and but we did our research before, right? Like we've talked to people that built homes, that have had homes built and did our research of like, all right, which builder did you like? I know we were looking at this person. What was your experience with it? And we narrowed it down to the best person for the job. And yeah, we've had a good experience. So for anybody looking at building a home, definitely do your research. And I'm sure Brad would be your guy if you're definitely down in the Arizona area. So
Well, I appreciate that, but research is important. I mean, from your side, word of mouth was really important. You reached out to other people, former clients. Did social media play a role? Maybe Instagram, websites. I mean, how much did you look at the back end in addition to just speaking to other people that have used them?
yeah, I think social media is really big, honestly, at this day and age. Because I mean, I'm a real estate guy. I love real estate. I invest in real estate. I do all these different things. So I love real estate. So follow a lot of real estate people, and I look at their homes and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. You know what I mean? Like I look at some of your homes, Brad, and I'm like, geez, these are gorgeous. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't think of that to put in my house. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there's different things that go on to this, but I enjoy looking at that type of stuff. But if I, as someone that is going to be, building another home, if someone has 50,000 followers and you have a bunch of these beautiful homes that you're being built, there most of the time you're like, wow, this guy must do or girl must be doing a really good job, right? They must, and I think at least that's going to get you in the door of contacting them, and then it's about the builder being able to sell them on it afterwards. But I think it's definitely an advantage if you can use social media to gather people and get your stuff out there so they can see it, and then they can decide from there. But yeah, it's definitely a good advantage.
Yeah, I love the marketing side. What's interesting about social media too, I mean, we could all speak about the negativity, but the one thing I really enjoy is a connector, right? It connects people, like it's really helped me better my business as I connect with other architects and designers and contractors
Yeah.
around the country. And, I mean, hence this conversation. You and I met through Instagram, and fortunately you were super courteous. I know you're super busy, Jim, to make time to come on the podcast and,
Oh,
develop an online relationship, if you are a friendship to some extent. But
yeah.
from your side now, career path, you're doing the TBT tournament, right? You had tremendous success. You mentioned yesterday in Dayton. I think you're playing tomorrow, right? How does, speaking about that tournament now, in closing, because I want to be sensitive to your time, but,
All right, good.
how do you put the time or the team together, right? Are these contacts you played with, friends? How is this formulated to be super competitive and really, to have a chance to win this thing?
Yeah, no, it's a kind of a little bit of both. I mean, I talked to some people that I knew. My brother actually, TJ, he's the GM, so he's the guy that's actually putting the team together. But Jordan Crawford, who's our little guard on our team, we knew each other when we played back in the Westchester Knicks. So I met Jordan there, and we've been good friends ever since. And he's really well connected. He knows everybody somehow, some way. He knows everybody, and he's the one that's connected to Floyd for the money team, and that's why we're called that, Floyd Mayweather and everything.
Yep.
So he literally knows everyone. He's the man. So he reaches out to people, but TJ just does. He reaches out on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, and he just basically is like cold calling, some of these guys, and he doesn't know them on a personal level, but he can reach out to them and be like, hey, we have a team, and we can, do you want to come play with us? And then we have contacts, obviously, that we know that we play with, that we've trusted, that we brought in. And then some of the other guys, are guys that are new that are on our roster. So it's kind of a mixture of both. But the fun part about it, it's like I said, it's kind of like a old man's AAU tournament, right? Like
Mhm.
it's you just show up and play. Like there's no stress of practicing or having to do all different types of crazy stuff like you may have to do during the season and all the build up. You just show up, you get your group of guys together. You may have a little training camp or little practices before or something, not anything crazy, but then you just show up and you put on your shoes and you play. And it's a lot of fun to be able to do that, and it kind of brings you back to your childhood memories.
I love that, and it's pretty neat that you have Floyd Money Mayweather behind you, right? The money team, and so
Yeah.
is there a sponsorship? That I would imagine there has to be some sort of sponsorship because you guys aren't like all in Denver, right? And you're traveling to remote locations, so
Yeah.
logistically, the coordination from everyone coming in and flying and being together for this tournament.
Yeah, there's sponsors. My brother gets together with all the sponsors, and some other guys that help out. And one of the guys on our team, Anders Jacobson, he actually is one of our sponsors. So he put in some money to be able to come, and now he's playing on the team. He played at Southern Virginia University. He played a stint at BYU Hawaii. Actually, he's a great guy. He does solar. He's out in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he's, part of our team. He's an awesome guy. We've been talking a lot, and so he helps sponsor, and then we get money from other sponsorships to be able to help get everyone the flights and all that stuff. But then if you get past the first 3 rounds, the second weekend, then the tournament pays for everything. The tournament pays for
Okay.
your hotel, your flights, all of that stuff. So the first couple of rounds you have to pay for it, and then afterwards, the last 3 rounds, the tournament pays for it.
Well, it's amazing. Well, speaking of solar, I have a lot of buddies that have left the Raleigh market and Texas market. It's booming for solar. So with that
Yeah.
said, as we close here, Jimmer, what do you do for fun outside of basketball? I know you're active with your wife Whitney and children, but what do you guys love to do?
We're pretty active. I mean, we definitely enjoy working out. And we go into the pool a lot. Our kids love the pool. They're like fishes. And we have a dog. His name's George, so we love to play with George, take him out, do that type of stuff. We love going to movies. We've been going to a lot of movies recently. Last one we just went to the Minions with the kids, and
Classic.
we go do we do a bunch of stuff. We're pretty active. We're a lot of fun, but we're also pretty chill. We don't do anything crazy. We kind of just hang out as a family. Kids are busy doing all of their activities, and we like to go out and get some good food and cook, make food, and then always ending with some type of dessert. We love our treats, love our ice cream and all that stuff. And my wife is an unbelievable baker, so it's kind of dangerous, honestly.
Yeah, that could be dangerous. Well, I need some advice. So I have 6 kids, and my kids been asking for a dog their whole life, and we finally
Oh,
broke down. We're
jeez.
going to get a French bulldog here in 2 weeks, and so we're pretty nervous
Nice.
because we've never had a dog. So, what kind of dog do you have? Any advice?
Yeah, we have a golden retriever, and I will say golden retrievers are incredible with kids. They let you do anything they want. My kids are on top of them all the time, and especially my son. My son, I'm like, Taft, you can't keep doing that to our dog. You have to get off of him. You have to stop pulling his ears and doing all this stuff. We're like constantly in a battle with him, trying to get him off that. But he loves the dog, and the dog is unbelievable with him, George. So, but Wesley is much better with him. Wesley is much better with him. So,
All right, Jimmer. Well, thanks for making time. I know you spent an hour, and I know you're super busy. So, where can our listeners find you?
yeah, you can find me on social media. My handles are just Jimmer Fredette, underscore 32, I think, with Instagram, just Jimmer Fredette, Facebook and Twitter. And on TikTok, same thing. So you can just look me up. I should have the blue check mark. So if you see that, you can go ahead and follow me and to go ahead and message me, whatever you want to do. But yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, go ahead and message me if you have questions.
Thanks, Jimmer. Well, thanks for making time today.
Yeah, no problem, Brad. Thanks for having me on.
So, thank you all for tuning into the podcast today. And just as a recap, if you check the show notes, they're just going to have all the links for the topics that we discuss. And also, one of our favorite features now is the chapters that go through the conversation. So, if there's certain topics you want to revisit or listen to, they're outlined by the time that we discuss those. And again, we can't thank you enough for all of your support. Please make sure and download our podcast, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you download your podcast.